Tamara, can you please give host to me? Thank you. Tamara, if you can hear me, can you give host back to me, please?
Oh, the check all it said was adjournment. So no. Just here, yeah. All right, it's 2:00. Call the meeting to order for November 15th, 2021. This is, although we've been in chambers with this new council a few times, this is our first real meeting. Besides org meeting and budget meetings, so this is our first real meeting. So I'll go through things somewhat slower than normal for Councillor Killick and Councillor Bermansky, although I'm sure you'll be able to catch on real fast. We always do attendance at the start of the meeting. So is Natalie online with us? There she is. I saw a thumbs up. Thanks, Natalie. How's your shoulder? Okay. So everyone's here with Councillor Jolly virtual. We always do the adoption of the agenda first. Generally, it's a Councillor Mackay motion, but you know, you can arm wrestle him for it. And then we always do presentations and then business arising ahead of consent agenda, just in case anybody who presents might change your opinion on something that's on consent. And then if you want to pull anything off of consent or add anything to consent, we wait till we actually get to the consent agenda. We don't do that at agenda time. So, Councillor Mackay, go ahead.
That the November 15th, 2021 agenda be adopted as presented.
All right, you have no additions, Mr. Scoble? We're good? All right, call for the vote. And how do you want Councillor Jolly to, in the chat? Okay, Councillor Jolly, just type in the chat. Okay, and that voting is, who are we waiting for? Councillor Jolly?
I can see my chat. Is it not getting through? I'm in favor.
Okay, I didn't see it. It's not in the chat for some reason. But she's in favor. So voting is closed, and that's, I'm assuming, unanimous. Yes. Okay, we do have one presentation. I had a request from Family Resource Center to proclaim today National Child Day. I think this is the first time we've ever done it. Is the Family Resource Center with us? That's Shelley.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Shelley.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. I'll read the proclamation. This will go on our website as well, but then after, if you want to say a few words, you can as well. All right? Okay, so National Child Day. Whereas National Child Day is celebrated on November 20th each year, and whereas this date marks the occasion when Canada adopted the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, and whereas National Child's Day is about celebrating children as active participants in our own lives and in communities as active citizens who can and should meaningfully contribute to decision making, and whereas the City of St. Albert is committed to ensuring that all children are treated with dignity and respect, this commitment includes the opportunity for children to have a voice, be protected from harm, be provided with their basic needs, and have every opportunity to reach their full potential. Now, therefore, on behalf of Council and the residents of the City of St. Albert, I, Kathy Heron, Mayor, do hereby proclaim November 20th, 2021 as National Child Day in the City of St. Albert. Probably no year more important to proclaim this with the stresses that our youth have been under the last 20 months. So, Shelley, would you like to add a few words?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mayor Heron and City Council. I am Shelley Pasick. I am the Executive Director at St. Albert Family Resource Center, and I'd like to thank you for doing this proclamation for us. You are correct, Mayor Heron, that this year, like no other year, we are seeing many people who are struggling, the least of which are our children. So World Children's Day was first established in 1954 as Universal Children's Day, and is celebrated on November 20th to promote international togetherness, awareness among children worldwide, and improving children's welfare. The UN General Assembly adopted the Convention of the Rights of the Child. There are 42 conventions on the right of the child, and a few of the conventions I'm just going to mention here are keeping families together, protection from violence, the right to health, water, food, and a safe environment, food, clothing, a safe home, access to education, and protection from sexual abuse. At the Family Resource Center, we believe that a child has the right to be cared for by their parents or guardians, the right to education, the right to consume healthy food, and the right to feel safe and protected. Specially abled children have the right to special care. Our prevention and early intervention programs focus on reaching children at the earliest opportunity to offer them and their families support. Our programs are focused on strengthening parenting and caregiving knowledge and practices, access to community supports and resources, improving child and youth development, building resiliency, and fostering well-being to promote healthy infants, children, youth, and families. COVID-19 is the first truly global crisis we have seen in our lifetime. No matter where we live, the pandemic has affected every person, children most of all. Millions are missing out on basic health services, education, and protection simply because they were born into poverty or because of their ethnicity, religion, or race. COVID-19 has widened this inequality gap, and the social, economic, and health impacts of the pandemic will reverberate for years to come, threatening our children. The costs of the pandemic for children are immediate, and if unaddressed, may last a lifetime. We need to rally our community behind a practical and concrete plan to protect our children, a promise from our generation to the next to invest in health and education, build more resilient systems and services that can reach all children, and ensure that budget cuts and economic downturns do not harm them. We are committed to serving the needs of children, youth, infants, and families in St. Albert, and we are strengthening that by the support from our community, from the City Council, and from everyone who lives around and supports families. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley. The actual proclamation, we will courier over to your office. Normally, we would have you in chambers and we'd all get down and take a picture and celebrate it a little bit more. But this video of this clip of our council meeting will go on our website.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your words.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. Any business arising from our presentation? Seeing none, I'm going to the consent agenda. So we have 3 things on consent: minutes, the ledge appointments, and time extension request. So the motion in front of us is to pass all those three things in one swell swoop of a motion. If the consent motion passes, then when we get to those agenda items, they're all automatically passed. So just beware, if you want to debate it, this is the time to pull it off. If not, we will entertain a motion to do the consent agenda. Thank you, Councillor Hughes.
That the recommendations in the following agenda reports be approved. 6.1, regular council meeting minutes of September 13th, 2021, and special council meeting minutes of September 16th, and inaugural/organizational meeting minutes of November 1st, 2021. 7.1, legislative appointments. 8.1, time extension request, non-standard meter, water meter metrics, and data.
Awesome. All right, call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously. So then my procedure, Councillor Bermansky and Councillor Killick, is when I get to those agenda items in the agenda, I'll just read the motion that we just passed. So for 6.1, for example, we just passed the minutes for 3 different meetings. The ledge appointments, I will read them out just so people can hear who's appointed to what. So the motions essentially were, hold on, let me blow this up so my eyes can see it. That the elected officials be appointed to council committees and external agencies as specified in the recommendations for 2021 to 22 appointments to council committees and external agencies provided as an attachment to the November 15, 2021 agenda report entitled Legislative Appointments for a 1-year term unless otherwise specified, and that notwithstanding Section 8 of the Community Living Standing Committee Bylaw 39, 2019, and Section 8 of the Community Growth and Infrastructure Standing Bylaw, Bylaw 40, 2019, Councillors Bermansky, Hughes, and Mackay be appointed to the Community Living Standing Committee for a 2-year term commencing November 15, 2021, and Councillors Broadhead, Jolly, and Killick be appointed to the Community Growth and Infrastructure Committee for a 2-year term commencing November 15, 2021, subject to the provisions in the bylaw established by those standing committees for a councillor to request to move to a different standing committee after the first year of the appointment. I'll quickly run through the committee. So Alberta Capital Waste Region Wastewater Commission will be Councillor Mackay. The Art Development Advisory Committee will be Councillor Bermansky with Councillor Broadhead as an alternate. Community Service Advisory Committee will be Councillor Killick with Councillor Bermansky as an alternate. Edmonton Global, my alternate will be Councillor Jolly. Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board, I have 2 alternates, Councillor Mackay and Councillor Bermansky. The Edmonton Metro Region Board Audit and Finance Committee will have Councillor Broadhead with Councillor Jolly as an alternate. The Edmonton Metro Region Board Servicing Plan Standing Committee will be Councillor Mackay with myself as an alternate. The Edmonton Metro Transit Services Commission will be Councillor Broadhead with Councillor Hughes as an alternate. Edmonton Salutes, Councillor Broadhead with Councillor Jolly as an alternate. The Waste Minimization Advisory Committee is Councillor Hughes with Councillor Jolly as an alternate. The Emergency Management Advisory Committee is myself, Councillor Bermansky, and Councillor Killick. The Environmental Advisory Committee will be Councillor Killick with Councillor Bermansky as an alternate. Homeland Housing will be Councillor Jolly, and they do not accept alternates. And the Intercity Forum on Social Policy will be Councillor Bermansky. Internal Audit and Internal Audit Steering Committee will be myself, Councillor Hughes, and Councillor Mackay. The Policing Committee for a 2-year term will be Councillor Mackay with myself as an alternate. The Quasi-Judicial Standing Committee will be Councillor Broadhead and Councillor Jolly. When we get into cost-sharing negotiations for recreation with Sturgeon County, you'll have Councillor Bermansky, Councillor Hughes, and myself at the table. St. Albert Seniors Advisory Committee will be Councillor Hughes with Councillor Killick as an alternate. St. Albert Sturgeon County Intermunicipal Affairs Committee is all of us. The Sturgeon River Watershed Alliance is the same as Environmental Advisory Committee, which is Councillor Killick. And finally, the Youth Advisory Committee will be Councillor Jolly and Councillor Broadhead as an alternate. So thank you, everyone, for stepping up and trying to share the workload. The next agenda item was also on consent, and the motion was that a deadline extension for the following item be approved for the non-standard water meter metrics and data. It will be extended to September 6, 2022. All right, 8.2 is AUMA resolutions, and we are getting a presentation by our government relations manager, Trevor Dooley. Trevor, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Mayor Herron.
Hi. Thanks for joining us. Do you have a bit of a presentation?
I do, if council members would like to see
Yeah.
it, I guess.
I think we should get it.
Did that work?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. All right, good afternoon, Mayor Herron and members of City Council. Happy to provide you with a briefing regarding the 2021 AUMA resolutions to be deliberated later this week at AUMA Convention. So as council is aware, AUMA works on behalf of Alberta's summer villages, towns, and cities to advocate to the government of Alberta on matters of interest to its members. The annual convention occurs later this week with the convention agenda displayed on the screen. An important annual event in determining these matters and setting direction for the AUMA is completed through the convention's resolution session. At the upcoming convention, a single resolution session is planned for Thursday, November 18th. The attached briefing note provides an analysis and recommendation completed by City of St. Albert administration for council's consideration. Each member of council attending the AUMA convention will be able to vote on each resolution. And kind of this briefing is something that city administration provides to council prior to every annual AUMA convention. So while this year the City of St. Albert is not a sponsored municipality of any resolution, St. Albert Council has previously approved 2 motions to second 2 of this year's resolutions. And so that includes online voting for municipal elections and tobacco industry health cost recovery fee. The AUMA's resolutions policy requires that seconding municipalities pass motions of council support prior to the convention, which St. Albert City Council has already completed. There is no requirement to speak to the resolution as a seconding municipality per the AUMA's resolutions policy. However, should members of council wish to do so, it is recommended council appoint a resolution champion, and that just kind of ensures coordination and organization in that respect. So administration has assumed for resolution 2021.B4 that this would be Councillor Mackay, given he moved approval of the motion earlier this year. And if council wishes to do so, council would need to appoint a resolution champion for resolution 2021.C4, which was previously moved by former Councillor Hansen. So the recommendation is that council accept the briefing note as information, and if council feels the need to do so, appoint a resolution champion to speak in support of resolution 2021.C4 as the seconding municipality. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions that council may have at this time, Madam Mayor.
All right, quick question, Trevor. I'm wondering if the resolution from the AUMA board on household hazardous waste, I don't know if, I've been busy today. There was supposed to be a press conference at 12:30 this afternoon. I'm just wondering if you're aware of anything.
We're monitoring that. Just before the meeting started, Mayor, I was checking social media and haven't seen anything from the province yet.
Okay, I haven't either. I'll keep my eye out, and maybe something from Alberta Recycling will come through and I'll let you know. All right, that's all I had because it might affect that resolution. Councillor Mackay has a question.
Not so much a question, just more obviously for common sense purposes. I'll be at the AUMA, I'll be at the resolutions in case I need to speak to the one that I've put forward, and I'm more than willing to obviously speak to the second if required to.
All right, so we will have yourself there, Councillor Jolly and Councillor Broadhead, right? So Councillor Jolly or Councillor Broadhead, do you have a desire to be the champion for that second motion? Councillor Jolly, how about you? You're good, Natalie?
I'd arm wrestle Wes for it and he'd win. So
So Ken, do you want your name there?
My fellow councilors' support of my voluntary is overwhelming. So I'm, yeah, I will.
Well, it makes it easy when the resolutions are all pretty simple and staff
My
is in
understanding-
support of all of them. So, but of course that doesn't, when we get to the floor and we hear debate, we have to be open to changing our mind, right? So, or changing or not supporting.
Yeah, and my understanding is with some amendments to policy at AUMA, it's not necessarily required to have a seconder, although I will speak for it if there's a.
Yes. So the way it works on the floor is the moving municipality will have opening remarks, and then if there's any opposition, they're allowed to speak. If not, then it goes straight to a vote. We should do that here in Chambers. If there's no opposition, just go straight to a vote. So yeah, it makes it go pretty fast. All right, so do you want to make the motion, Councillor Mackay?
I
Oh,
just thought
Councillor Hughes,
somebody
go ahead.
should-
Yep, go ahead, sorry.
I just thought I want to nominate you, so you're not nominating yourself. So you feel love. And also I feel like I'm going to get a win on this. So I'm going to go for the yes. that you're not voting no, that the attachment titled briefing note on 2021 AMA conference be received as information, and that the council appoint Councillor Mackay to the resolution champion for resolution 2021 C4 tobacco industry health cost recovery fee as a seconder to the 2021 AMA convention resolutions session.
Anything further, Councillor Hughes?
I think you do a great job, Ken. And there's no pressure, but the entire resolution is handing on your shoulders. That's it.
Seeing no one else wanting to speak before I go to the vote, I'll just take a moment to thank Trevor and all the staff, because I know you farm this out to various departments to get opinions on, and quite often there are some that we're not in favor of and do cause some debate on the floor. And it's really nice for council to walk into that session with some idea of what we're voting on, and not be blindsided or have unintended consequences, as Councillor Mackay would always say. So I appreciate all the work going into this report. All right, anything to close, Councillor Hughes?
No ditto on the report, though. Really well done. Yeah.
All right, call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, council.
All right, we are moving on to 8.3, which is our quarterly policing update. We have both, I'm assuming we have both. I saw, yep, there's Ryan. So we have Inspector Cominiac, and we also have our chair of the policing committee, Dr. Chris Wells, in attendance. Fellas, I'm not sure which order you guys want to present.
I could probably go first. Dr. Wells, if you're okay with that.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thanks for having me this afternoon. I'll start off by extending my congratulations to all the elected officials on a successful election campaign. I see there's a couple of new faces, so looking forward to meeting you in the coming weeks and months. Just going to start off with just a quick overview of our Q2 annual performance plan priorities. Priority 1 is crime reduction. So our crime reduction unit has conducted a total of 43 curfew checks during Q2, resulting in 10 failed to comply charges. In addition, 14 arrests on offenders with outstanding warrants, one of which was in possession of 5 ounces of methamphetamine, and subsequently charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking. Our crime reduction unit also coordinated a large-scale fraud investigation with Edmonton Police Service and Parkland RCMP. The investigation resulted in a search warrant and seizure of $70,000 worth of fraudulently obtained retail merchandise, which resulted in an additional 8 criminal code charges. And in our community policing and victim services unit, our members continued with proactive patrols on trails and parks with our golf carts and bicycles. And that was conducted through the afternoon, evenings, and weekends. Also attended a lot of community events such as the farmers market. And then looking at our second priority, which is mental health and vulnerable communities. Our unit participated in multiple stakeholder meetings during the second quarter, including Housing Coalition Committee, Seniors Committee, Victim Services Unit, Youth Committee, and School Community Resource Team meetings. Along with that, the Botvin Life Skills Training Pilot Project is ongoing, and that's targeting grades 2 and grade 6. Respectively. Also increased proactive patrols in the month of September with the start of school, patrolling school zones, completing in-person meetings and presentations at the schools as well. We also have ongoing research on adopting a mental health toolkit, so we're just considering pricing and quotes here, hoping to acquire those by the end of the calendar year, if not early new year 2022. And lastly, our third priority, which is domestic violence and assaults. In July, we had some media information that went out just to educate the public around Clare's Law. August, several virtual meetings with the SAFE group, which is Stop Abuse in Families, and we're just working on relationships with those folks as well. There's been a lot of turnover between the RCMP and that and SAFE. So again, just trying to get on the same page with those folks. In August, networking meetings with the St. Albert Community Village to discuss high risk and vulnerable clients and collaborate on strategies to assist them. In September, again, virtual. Most of our meetings are virtual, as they probably are in other city departments. But we met with the Domestic Violence Task Force to discuss upcoming Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which was in October. And our domestic violence members have met with our local victim services unit, advocates, and domestic violence task force to collaborate on service delivery strategies. So our victim services unit is starting to ramp up now with attending a lot more calls. Our volunteers are starting to get re-engaged, which is really nice to see after an almost 2-year hiatus. So just in terms of our trends and points of interest during this time period, Q2, statistics indicate a marked increase in mental health act category calls. So we're up from 125 in 2020 to 140 in 2021. So that's an increase of 12%. And that same analysis over a 5-year period during that quarter is up 22%. So again, just demonstrating a steady increase year after year in that area. There's also a sharp increase in domestic violence category calls. 150 during this period in 2020, up to 174 here currently in 2021, up 16%. So these objectives and initiatives are suitably given these trends. These are both concerning trends and tie up a lot of resources here with my department. And then with crime reduction, our activities are ongoing. And we've got some good efforts going on with neighboring RCMP detachments and municipal police service. So as everyone knows, crime has no boundaries. So we're trying to remain intelligence-led in that regard. And just a quick verbal update. I did stand up the Community Diversity Advisory Committee. We had our first kickoff meeting on September 23rd. I considered it to be a pretty good success in the sense that we had a pretty good turnout. We had close to 12 people that put their hand up from various demographics here in the city of St. Albert, and just got the conversation started. Essentially, we're going to find ourselves having some further discussions here at the end of the month around equity, diversity, and inclusion. And certainly, how do we connect as the RCMP to make diverse community members aware of community services that are inclusive and supportive? And how is diversity reflected here in the local RCMP detachment? So lots to work on, but we do have a good starting point. And I will certainly keep council posted on any developments in that area. We'll turn it over to Mr. Wells.
Great. Thank you, Inspector. I'll be brief. For the benefit of new council members, welcome. Hello. I'm pleased to be here in my capacity as the elected chair of the St. Albert Policing Committee. The St. Albert Policing Committee in 2022 will actually be going into its 5th year of operation. My, how time flies. We have an excellent relationship with our detachment commander, who you've heard from. We meet almost on a monthly basis, about 8 to 10 times a year. A big focus for our work is not only working with the detachment commander to set the annual policing priorities, and is to monitor those through the various quarterly reports that are provided. We have in the past had Councillor Mackay as our council rep, and Mayor Herron as our ex officio rep, and it's great to see that that will continue forward. So we do have a direct conversation line into council, and we're able to share information back and forth. And particularly if council has any homework for us to be able to do, dig into any issues. I think it's also important to know that we do have a public complaint director who is elected from our committee, who works very closely with the detachment commander receiving, navigating any complaints of conduct of service that are received. And when I say navigating, that means simply working with the individual complainant to understand the various ways to report those concerns, whether they be directly to the detachment and detachment commander or to the RCMP in Ottawa through various processes. We don't do any investigation or adjudication of complaints ourselves, simply serve as a third party to be able to help facilitate the process. But that's, from my perspective, been a very important and again, an excellent conduit to members of the public who maybe for whatever reason don't feel comfortable going directly to the RCMP to start with a complaint, but to help us to be able to facilitate. And most of the time, I think through successful conversation with the commander, there is able to have a result. But it's very important to have that independent third party to be able to contact should there be a concern. And we have regular communication back and forth, it would seem almost daily, with the detachment commander and various operations within the RCMP, just being kept apprised of various situations, opportunities for professional development or public education. And we really are focused on those three priorities you heard about that form the basis of our annual policing priorities, sort of the annual goals that the RCMP is directed to focus non-emergency operations on. And in particular, we really believe the importance of mental health and domestic violence, and the uptake in those incidences, certainly during pandemic times. So the last little item I'll leave you with is just an update to let you know that we are planning to host the Alberta Association of Police Governance Conference this coming year. Those dates will be April 29th to the 30th here in St. Albert. So we're actively working with the association, working here with city supports on planning that conference, and with the RCMP detachment, of course, and K Division on hopefully hosting one of the best conferences to date, and a great way to showcase our wonderful community here in St. Albert and the strong working relationships we have with the RCMP and our municipal enforcement services. So thank you for the opportunity for us to be able to address you today.
Thank you. Thank you both. I'll start with you, Dr. Wells. Do we have a date for that conference? I just want to get it in my calendar.
Yes, April 29th to 30th is the dates.
Okay, thank you. All right, I've got a couple questions already lined up. Councillor Broadhead, go ahead, and you might want to let Ryan or Chris know who you're asking.
Well, that'd be a good question. Either of you can answer it if you've got the question. So we went to the Safe Breakfast the other day, and one of the things that they said is that because of the COVID, that there was a rise in domestic violence. And I suspect it's nationwide. I don't suspect that St. Albert is unique in the experience here. My question to either of you is there research being done around this so that we can respond in the future around this in a holistic fashion? Like, if it goes up, I'm just wondering what we can do to address it other than just 911 and respond. Is there some proactive type thing that we can learn from here?
I can try and answer that, Councillor Broadhead. So it really is a community problem, and as an organization, we're trying to partner with all community stakeholders so that we can make sure that we're tackling it in as broad of a way as possible. So I mean, we're first responders, but there's a lot of additional support and supplementary services that other community services or departments can offer. So part of that, I guess, that strategy or that ideology is just making sure we're working with all community partners. And from an organizational standpoint, we're always trying to evolve our policies and procedures and making sure that we're able to adapt our approach. With domestic violence, there's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences as well with how these crimes are carried out and that cycle of violence. So we do have a couple of domestic violence specialists here at the RCMP detachment in St. Albert. They work over in my ops support side. So they're non-uniform members, and they're constantly receiving upgrades and training and attending workshops and presentations just to add to their toolbox. But there's really no hard and fast answer to your question. It's just we're as an organization we are trying to pivot as best we can to in order to respond to the increased pressures from domestic violence. So perhaps Dr. Wells can maybe add to that.
I would just add that absolutely we've noticed this as a trend, and that's one of the reasons it's been put into our annual policing priorities plan as one of the top 3 objectives and goals is we're only talking about police reported instances of domestic violence. We actually know the situation is probably much more severe and significant than what is actually making its way to law enforcement. One of the things that we certainly did was with the introduction of Clare's Law, we had a subject matter expert to be able to come to the policing committee to educate us about that and how it's being utilized. And the inspector can certainly speak to the fact that it is being utilized in St. Albert in some cases. So that's another tool that's available. I know that our communities had previous discussions about perhaps the need for domestic violence shelter here in St. Albert. Certainly know that there has been support for the one in Morinville, but that continues to be an ongoing question, particularly as we're seeing more and more cases. But I think to your point as well, this isn't not just an issue that's isolated to our community in St. Albert. Perhaps we have some maybe different challenges about getting people to talk about it, given the nature of our community. Many people in our professional backgrounds are perhaps more reluctant to bring issues forward about feeling experiences of shame or reputation in community and issues like that. It's just certainly something I've noticed of living in St. Albert almost all my life, that sometimes our community has the same issues, but some different, challenges that present themselves. So I think we have to break through those barriers, continue to have this conversation to identify it as a problem, as one we need to talk about more openly and honestly, and continue to provide mechanisms for victims to be able to come forward, whether that's to the police or talking to a neighbor or our local community supports. But this is definitely on our radar, and unfortunately I don't think one that is going to change in terms of priorities for some time to come. Thank you.
I appreciate both your responses. Thank you very much.
Councillor Mackay has a question.
A question and a comment, and I appreciate the presentation. Thank you very much. I just want to say what a great initiative it is in relation to what the inspector was talking about with standing up his diversity advisory committee. I think that just looking at sort of a broad first draft of the terms of reference, I think I believe it'll be very exciting and a great opportunity for some of our vulnerable community members to actually have a say and a voice on some very important issues impacting our community. The other one that I want to ask, and maybe Dr. Wells, you might have more of an idea on this one. It's in relation to the police governance. Where do the costs come from that? Are we okay for costs? Are they basically supported by the governance committee, or how does that come?
Yes, great question. No cost to the city of St. Albert. It's covered by the association. That was a big factor in us certainly deciding to put a nomination forward. So not to mention sort of a bit of the economic advantage it'll give us to St. Albert, to some local businesses. We've been ensuring that we're using local facilities. We're looking at local caterers, for example. as well. So we know every little bit of business these days is important, particularly in some of those industries that have been hit harder by the pandemic as well. So and certainly to your other point about the Diversity Advisory Committee, I was actually at that meeting and just struck by the high quality of the volunteers who actually came forward. We're dealing with a lot of in community members, people who chose to come to our community in St. Albert and make it their home, and some people who actually really for their professional lives work in these areas of diversity, equity, and human rights, and are willing to step forward and say, this is the issue that I want to volunteer my time as a community member on in the city of St. Albert, because I really believe that this is a great community, but one where I often maybe haven't seen a lot of people like myself when I'm new to the community. And so I actually think we have some tremendous resources to be able to harness some great enthusiasm. I don't think we could actually afford to pay the people in their professional capacities who've stepped forward to offer their supports and services. I think our big challenge is going to be the fact that with any of these kinds of committees, that the RCMP committee is very narrowly focused on the RCMP operations, where of course these issues are about our entire city and our entire community. So a lot of the conversation is going to touch on areas that the RCMP is just not going to be able to address because it's not within their mandate. So it really also speaks to me about perhaps the need for council to, in the future, maybe consider standing up its own committee on equity, diversity, and inclusion, much like you do with some other committees like the policing committee and others that will really work with the various city departments to get those lived experiences and that expertise to better inform city services, not, for example, in this case, just the RCMP. I know we've run into those issues on various committees with the Edmonton Police Service that I was involved with too. A lot of the issues are human rights issues, are community issues, and not necessarily just policing issues. So we also don't want to set community members up for a false expectation that just looking to the RCMP to be the ones to solve or address all of these issues. So, but I think it's an important starting point for conversation, tremendous enthusiasm, and people who really want to step forward and to make our own community, our own city of St. Albert more inclusive, more responsive, and it's just exciting. So stay tuned.
Yeah, the next meeting is November 24th, and I'm hoping to attend. Last question, Inspector, in relation to, obviously there's been a lot of information, some media coverage in relation to the recently released report by the province on standing up a provincial police agency. You know, when some news like this hits, I think it has an impact on members too, because I mean, obviously, you know, my experience with frontline members is you know, they get information, and sometimes that information is accurate, and lots of times there's, you know, sometimes there's just a need to fill in the gaps. I was just curious in relation to how our members are dealing with some of the, I guess, some of the unknowns right now at this particular time, or is it just too early to tell?
A little bit of both. Obviously, there's a lot of new information that's out there, and a lot of it is just political rhetoric. But you know, I guess from an organizational standpoint, we're here now, and we don't want to leave. We're open for business, and my officers are all proud to be members of the RCMP, and you know, we're just going to strive to stay focused on providing the best service we can to this community, and I'm sure that's what most commanders are trying to communicate with their teams. Really, I believe it's just a distraction for you know, for commanders and for the RCMP executives, because there's a lot of information floating around out there as to why a provincial police service would be better, but none of it is statistically or data driven. So I'll wait with bated breath, like everyone else, for all this proof that it can be done better and be more cost effective. So, but I'm just trying to stay positive. I mean, I sent a message out to my detachment after the announcement went public that the study had been completed. And it's a bit discouraging, for some of my officers. But again, we're trying to stay focused on what we do best. So that's where it's at today.
Yeah, great response. And I just want to, I'm think I can speak on behalf of all council, at least on this one incident. I think we all support and strongly support the RCMP in our community. And I hope that you are able to pass on that message to all of your members. I also want to tell you, you shouldn't hang up your dress mess kit in the back. They tend to shrink on the hangers. So please don't do that.
Well, truth is I have to take it into the tailors because I think they think we're all shaped like a bell. But yeah, no, it's not on display. I'm actually going to head out this afternoon and see if I can get it to fit a little bit better. Thanks for that observation, Councillor Mackay.
Just comes from previous knowledge.
Yes.
Councillor Jolly, do you have any questions? Okay, I wasn't going to go to the APP question until you brought it up, Councillor Mackay. But Ryan, I think the sentiment here in St. Albert is we're well served by the RCMP. We've always ranked exceptionally high for safety in St. Albert, and I've never heard a single question about moving away from the RCMP. So I know it's uncertain times, and Councillor Mackay said it, passed on to your entire detachment that we have your back right now. We're just waiting, as you are, for bated breath, or with bated breath, to see the data. And because right now, what I'm seeing is not supportive of a transition to Alberta provincial policing, and so we're waiting, I guess, with lots more questions, and we need them to be answered. So. Dr. Wells, I have one quick more question for you, because you were talking about the fantastic volunteers in our community stepping up to serve on committees. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing interviews for our own civic committees, which includes the policing committee. Can you let me know, do we have anyone on your committee at end of term? And is there any skill matrices you're sort of looking for?
We have two vacancies, potential vacancies that are coming up. Two members who are on one-year appointments, and I believe the deadline is actually today to apply to civic committees. Always looking for diversity, in particular an Indigenous perspective, would be very important as well. We've been fortunate to be able to have meetings over the past year to connect with our seniors committee and youth committee. To be able to hear from them around issues with policing or community safety. So that's been well served to be able to draw upon the expertise of other committees as well. So I would certainly say that was probably our highest priority, and we're always striving for more gender balance as well. So female identified committee member would be great as well. And certainly anyone from any racialized or other diverse communities who may have applied is important as we reflect on our own demographics. We largely, right now, we largely look like St. Albert does in terms of our own citizen makeup, but all the more reason for us to, or we can, strive to find those other diverse identities and voices, knowing that sometimes that is a challenge. We can only draw from those who are applying as well. So
exactly, yeah. Well, we'll do our best, and then if we ever start up our Indigenous Advisory Committee, that might be another committee you could do a joint meeting with to get their perspective. So when you talked about the seniors and the youth, I've just made me think of that. All right. Any more questions from members of council? I'm seeing none. Councillor Mackay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just motion, if you're ready for it, that the St. Albert RCMP 2021-2022 quarter 2 APP report provided as an attachment to the November 15th, 2021 agenda report entitled Quarterly Policing Update, Quarter 2, 2021, be received as information. Sorry, I didn't know what app was.
It's all good. Any opening comments?
No, I think the comments came in the questions. Were very well supported. We had a very good year, although we could certainly see the impacts that COVID had on our community from policing standpoint, and also looking forward to continuing to work with this committee.
All right, any more comments? Sorry, there was one thing I was going to add. Ryan, for your information, members of council during the AUMA conference will be meeting with, I'm not exactly sure, it says senior officers. I'm not exactly sure who that will be.
It'll be, I think the CEO will make every attempt to make it there, but there'll also be representatives from Solgens as well.
Yeah, all right, so that is Friday afternoon at noon. And so Councillor Mackay, Broadhead, and Jolly and I will probably be in attendance, sir.
Excellent.
Anything to close?
Only that, Ryan, we will speak glowingly of you.
You might actually see Chief Superintendent Konetsky, Kevin Konetsky there as well. But the CEO is aware that you're interested in a meet and greet with council there. So hopefully you'll get to meet the big guy. Thank you.
Cool. Calling for the vote. Voting's closed. Passes unanimously. Awesome. All right, we are now moving on to, we have no emergent items on the agenda today. Oh, thank you both for joining us. We'll see you soon. Any member of council have a announcement, a notice of motion, and or a information request they want to read into the record? Councillor Jolly, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Tamara actually reminded me of one that I put in quite a long time ago. So this is an IR, and it is, which of the quick wins from the Toolkit for Inclusive Municipalities in Canada and beyond have been implemented in St. Albert? And are there any plans to add to our inventory of policies or actions related to inclusiveness? So that's a report by UNESCO and the Canadian Commission for UNESCO.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks, Tamara, for keeping us on our toes. Councillor Broadhead.
Yeah, just a quick question. I don't know whether you want it as an IR or not, but so coming off Everett Drive, so there's a double left from west to south there, and the one is a straight through lane. Has there been a number, like what's the accident rate at that particular intersection? Is it identified as particularly dangerous or not?
Kevin's got all the accident rates memorized.
I don't have that information. We'll take that as an IR and ask engineering to follow up. I know that certainly there's upgrades planned as we continue north with St. Albert Trail there.
Yeah. Okay, it was just asked to me if it was a particularly dangerous one simply because of the straight through and the left out of that one lane, because it's new, right? It's a new intersection.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll follow up. I mean, anecdotally, I spend a lot of time in that intersection, and there certainly is a lot of near misses that I see. So, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Do you want me to write something and send it to you?
No, we'll just take it like that and send you an email.
Okay, thanks.
I think that it's also to do with the volume, because the roundabout is so a short distance from St. Albert Trail back. So they have, just like Boudreaux, they have two left-hand lanes to accommodate the volume. Otherwise it gets backed up too far. That might be part of it.
Yeah, I think part of it too is people want to turn north, and then all of a sudden somebody will come through, straight through on the left turn lane.
Do they?
Yeah,
I guess the
they're
comment I
just
would
not aware of it.
add is, like, I've seen this in new developments many times. What's happening is there's just more traffic coming out of Jensen Lakes now, right? So it's just, they're getting used to that. And like I said, we need to do some upgrades and some work there with the planned upgrades to the trail, but we'll get back to you on that.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good question. I just drove through that the other day. Councillor Hughes.
I don't know if it's a PM or a motion, so I thought I'm going to do it just in case it's a motion. Well, we'll figure this out. That the city of St. Albert provide notice that it's withdrawing from Edmonton Global. So I don't know.
Sorry, say that again.
That we provide notice that we're withdrawing from Edmonton Global. So I don't know, because it's not a budget for this year, because it doesn't actually affect us for 2 years.
It's 2 years out, so it wouldn't be a budget motion. It would be a regular council motion.
So I better read it out so you can get the time to do it. Because I have it here, like, we'd like to do it this year. So if it does pass, we don't rolling it over. That's all. Thanks.
All right. So we'll schedule that agenda committee for 3 weeks from now would be Probably into January, aren't
Yeah,
we?
we do have that second report coming back, the follow-up report on Edmonton Global.
Okay.
That's
The
coming
follow-up to
back.
the one we did right before the election?
Pardon?
We had.
Yeah, that was the one, that was the first one. Then you guys asked for some follow-up questions and stuff, and Mike is working on that.
When is that
Backing up.
coming?
It's coming back. It's got to be early in Q1.
Can we wait till that report to entertain that motion?
I really thought that it was supposed to come back next fall. Like, I'm looking at US, like, I just remember the debate, it was that we were going to delay it and not push it for right away because there wouldn't be a bunch of new information. So I really thought it was to bring it back by next year this time.
I'd have to, I'll go back and look at the dates, and we can probably do it through agenda planning. But I do know that I just had a conversation with Mike getting some information from Edmonton Global for that report. So they are actively working on it.
Okay.
But we'll have to do that part of agenda planning.
Because we have a meeting, I know we have a meeting on the 20th. I know we have one more, I think, in December.
The December 6th.
6th.
Is the council meeting.
So I think I'm in under the wire for December 6th. But I just think we should have the debate one way or another now.
Okay.
And if we're going to decide to stay, we're going to stay. So if we can have it coincide with whenever you have that information, but before the end of the year, that way we don't have to pay for another year's dues. If we do choose to go out of it, and if we don't, then we've made the decision to continue, and then we can hear what happens next year. Does that make sense to everybody? So if I needed to provide, and if that for some reason we need to do a less than 21-day exemption clause, so be it. So I just wanted to give that notice now. That's all. So we at least can have that a council debate on the issue. That's
It
it.
doesn't have to be done by the end of the year.
Well, it just, I don't know when the dues roll over, but I'm betting it's January 1st. So if we don't withdraw until January, then it's actually a 3-year before we'd be out of it. Because we have to
I
give
think
2 years notice.
It's 2 years from the date you give notice. So it could be August, because Morinville's pulling out in, yeah, it's like, and it was Gibbons that just pulled out. They just pulled out in October. So it's 2 years from when you give notice, not 2 years calendar-wise.
As long as we're confident that it's being actually prorated, then I don't care as much.
And I
about
think,
the
of course, if we give notice to withdraw, and within the 2 years, we can give notice to that we want to stay in too.
Yeah, we could change our mind.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that the report addresses that withdrawal clause, like what exactly it means and when you have to do it by and so we'll make sure all those details are there.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for, because I know when we had the discussion before, it wasn't clear, and I got the impression that if it was January 1st, it would then be a 3-year from that point, because we'd have to wait till the end of that calendar year before it kicked in. If that's not the case, then please welcome that new information. But I'll put it forward and we can figure out where to slot it.
Alrighty. Anyone else? All right, I'm seeing none. There's no presentations that are registered, so 11 and 12 are out. We're going in camera now. So 13.1, council, is our provincial government engagement strategy. I did question at agenda planning why this has to be in camera. I read it with my lens of should this be in camera or not. Could go either way. Not sure how you all feel, if you want to do this publicly or if you want to do it in camera and then come out publicly later. Because for me, the engagement strategy needs to be public. It needs to be talked about in the media and the press. That's because these are our priorities and what we're trying to lobby the provincial government for. So is there a need to go in camera?
Question.
Councilor McCack?
I'm looking at it, and I mean, I guess we could talk if administration would just talk about, like, we've got them broken down into federal, provincial, and maybe some of the headings could be talked to, but I just wonder about some of the particular strategies. When I looked at it, I didn't see anything that I don't think would be too concerning, but I don't also want to put that on Mr. Dooley or Mr. Scoble to dance around some of these things. So I guess we're not going to release the actual report, though, are we?
I don't know what happens if we don't go in camera, Mr. Scoble.
Well, it would be a public report then. So
Pardon?
it would be a public report then. I mean, perhaps the way council wants to approach this is you could do the in-camera session today, and then we could provide I guess a public agenda item in a couple of weeks sort of idea, but may not have as many specifics with respect to specific stakeholders mentioned in the report.
Okay. All right, so can I need a motion to go in camera? Councillor Mackay, thank you.
I can do it here. The council moving camera to discuss matter pursuant to section 21 and section 24(1)(a) of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And I can speak to why I think we should do it if you wish.
You can. We don't normally debate going into camera, but go ahead.
No, I like you, when I initially looked at it, I thought that there's certainly around some of the headings and topics are all very open, and we have had these discussions in public many times on them. However, my concern, as outlined by even Mr. Scoble, there are some specific third-party information contained within the actual report that if we discussed it currently in public, that would not be vetted, and that could potentially cause some concern to the members or to the entities named within the actual report. I'm not worried that we're going to give out any secret strategies, but actually if the particular entities that are named in the report, that I think we have to be careful of. And I take Mr. Scoble's approach that we can discuss it, then have it released, although somewhat vetted in a public document.
Sure. All right. Anyone else? Call for the vote. Voting's closed. That passes by majority with Councillor Bermansky opposed. We are now in camera. Sean, are we going to be doing the Zoom in the lounge? All right. So do we stay on the same Zoom call and just take our computers in there? Okay. All right. I'm unplugging. We'll meet you in the lounge, everyone. Hello, Renee.
Okay, I've given you host.
Okay, hold on. I have to turn up my volume. Okay, go ahead.
I've given you host and now I can, are you all finished in camera?
No, we still have three more things in camera.
Okay.
So I can just go and join a breakout room now?
So it must have shut down then, the whole breakout room shut down? I don't see it.
No, they are all still in it. I can see them on the screen.
Oh, it's because I've given you host. That's why I can't see it. So
Yeah.
you are host and so you can join the breakout room and then I can leave the meeting and everything's good.
Okay, see ya.
Okay, thanks.
We'll do that better next time. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Plate there. I saw your personalized plate. I didn't understand.